Hi everybody, this is Marvin Heyman of Marvin Heyman Associates, author of the ebook, U.S. Federal Government Design Build Strategies for Success. We help you design and build your business to find, win, and successfully perform U.S. federal government contracts. Today's lesson is on lowest price technically acceptable awards. So, why is the government doing this type of a thing? We talked before on the best value that they're looking for, of course, to minimize their risk. In this, they're willing to pay a lower price than to find the least risk offer. So the government's willing to accept more risk for meeting their expectations to prepare a lower price, and converse. So what goes on here in at lowest price technically acceptable? Well, one thing to understand is before we learned that the review boards select on emotion and justify their selections on facts, which was the best value solicitations. This is a little bit different. Lowest price technically acceptable awards seeks to minimize those emotions. And what the review board's goal is to provide proposals, find proposals that are at least marginally acceptable. Now there may be gradations of acceptable. They may be saying, outstanding acceptable or satisfactory acceptable. But in the end, do they meet the requirements or don't they meet the requirements? So let's go ahead into this discussion. You've seen this before. The review team, basically you got the contracting officer and the review board, and you got the legal team. The same thing happens in this scenario. The proposals come to the contracting officer, where that contracting officer does a sort. Once again, same sort, basically looking for pass-fail on items if you have them or not. The price, for example, if you took exception to the price, very similar, all the same as the the best value scenario. Did you sign your 1442 or 1449? Did you provide, if you're a large business, you provide a small business plan, for example? Does your CCR information included? So what the contracting officer is doing, once again, is a sort. They're getting rid of the proposals that don't meet the minimum requirements. Of those that are left over, the same thing. The review board gets those, and they do yet another sort. And they're looking for the sort they're looking for is on in the volume 2s. The volume 1s will stay with the contracting officer. The volume 2s get passed to the review board. Once again, the review board's doing a credibility sort here. They're looking for past performance primarily, but they also may be checking references or key personnel. Do they meet the government's expectation for the minimums? And those that don't get set to the side. Now, what they'll do too is they'll call the proposals that don't meet the minimums, and they'll call the contracting officers, and then the contracting officer pulls those appropriate volume 1 proposals out of the running, and then of the remaining proposals, and this is where the 80-20 rule comes into play also. 80% of them get eliminated through these sorts. 20% they start looking at the if it's answering the question, are they technically acceptable or not? So what they're going to do is look at the technical proposal and then basically what you are selling and how you're going to accomplish the work. And what they're looking for, and sometimes they'll be asking for specifications, that sort of thing. So what they're looking for is this proposal technically acceptable or not? Now while they are doing that, the contracting officer is looking at the prices. And once again, it's got to be fair and reasonable. He's looking to see if the prices are basically in the awardable range. We talked about this previously. If the government estimate, for example, is $1 million, he can award in plus or minus 10% range without really having to get any permissions from anybody. Above 10% and usually up to 25%, he's going to have permissions to award in this range if there's something that is really the government really likes. And then we'll have to probably get permissions from some kind of a budget manager or something like that. And if it's down in this area, they need to make sure that the price is fair and reasonable to both the government and the offerer. Okay, so if it's down in this area, it may not be fair to the offerer. The offerer may have forgotten something. So what's going to happen is that the review board then reports back to the contracting officer which volume 2 proposals are considered technically acceptable. And what the contracting officer is doing at the same time is he's putting a chart together. His chart looks like this. Puts the government estimate on top, lowest bidder here, highest bidder here, lowest to highest, and basically the lowest bidder is below the government estimate, in this case it is, then they go look at the technical proposal, and they're answering the question, is the proposal at least technically acceptable? They're looking for marginally technically acceptable. So this particular one is not, so this would be out of the competition, but this one is. And that one, $995,000, company B over here, has been determined to be the lowest price technically acceptable award. It's just that simple. So what happens when things are a little different and all the bids come in above the government estimate and then and outside the awardable range? So what happens here? Well, the government has some choices. They can either get more funding, they can go to probably these two here, maybe these three, I don't know, whatever they decide to do to ask for best and finals. At this point, they may even divulge their government estimate. We have $1 million, so they're going to try to get this government. Or they may just be working with this individual right here to get a best and final, to get below, or maybe just this one. So if this is a no, they probably would be cutting this one out of the deal totally, but they'll be working with this one to get it closer into the awardable range. Then they can also look at if the any offerors provided any alternative solutions, like value engineering in their proposals. They may look at those at this particular time. They may ask for alternate solutions from any or all offerors, or of course, all that pile of 80% over there, they may look in that 80% to see if there's something there. If they can't get to the government estimate, then they will sometimes just cancel the solicitation or rebid. So that is basically what goes on. As before, the contracting officer will enter into discussions with the offerers. They're going to translate their reviews into the words that are in the solicitation yet again. In this discussion, they're going to ask for usually clarifications, and then they're going to ask for to strengthen weaknesses, and then they're going to talk about their strengths. Once again, then they're going to make their selection, and they're going to write letters to everybody why or why not they didn't win, and then they're going to translate. Of course, those words are going to come from the solicitation. They're not going to use any of the review board words that they use, and then they're also going to talk about debriefs, and they're going to ask for debriefs. And once again, don't quibble on the debriefs, because they're going to convene the review board on a day or 2 days to do all the debriefs at one time. There really isn't a lot of flexibility here on the date and time of the debriefs. So that is basically how a lowest price technically acceptable award works. I will highly suggest, if you want more information about how the government works, you can check out my website, www.feddesignbuild.com. And there you'll find videos underneath the tab called Insider Secrets. There'll be an entire shopping cart. You can find my ebook there to purchase, as well as we're running a sale now on our for the next 2 weeks on our video series. We have 25% off this week, these next 2 weeks. So please look there. And if you want a lot more information, complete rundown of how this works is on the video series. So this is Marvin Hayman with Marvin Hayman Associates. I thank you for listening, and happy contracting.